Hey guys, Dr. Brad here, and I'm here to talk to you today about exercising muscles. So here we have a nice chart of all the different muscles of the body, and you can see how muscles of the lower leg tie into the hip and how the hip actually can be affected by damage in here, say. But the thing I really want to talk about though is about activity and muscle integrity, or basically the health of your tissues. Now, most people, when we think about our muscles, our ligaments, or tendons, we think of them as like rods, cables. So they're just structures, and we get sore and whatnot, which is fine, but we don't realize that very simply that these are living tissues and they need oxygen, they need nutrients to stay healthy. And what does that mean to be healthy? It means that they don't break down, they don't fray, they don't start to break apart. That's tendinosis, tendinitis. That is the inflammation and irritation in muscles, the tension that happens with them. Those are signs of tissue that is fatigued and is under stress. And you got to think of it as like a fraying rope. Your body doesn't want to use and overuse a fraying rope, but if you push yourself and say burn the midnight, so basically you exercise too much, you create too much fraying, too much damage, and find there's a failure point. On the converse end, let's think about the converse end. Maybe you don't do anything, but then you kind of get up and you're like, you want to go on a hike, and you end up making it a 3, 4, 5 mile hike, which doesn't sound crazy to anyone who's generally exercising, but someone who hasn't exercised in like months to years, that's a huge load on tissues that aren't strong, haven't developed the integrity for that. They fatigue easily. When you mean fatigue, that means they lose their energy. They don't have the capacity to run that long. So what happens to fatigue? They inflame, they get frayed very fast, and well, at worst, they tear and rupture, which is where injury comes in. So it's very important to understand that if you're exercising too much, rest, take some time off, 1, 2 days. Make sure that if you have a day in which you're not getting enough sleep, you take it light that day, or you don't do anything at all. If you haven't exercised in a while, you're going to ramp yourself up slowly. You're going to start with a 1 mile walk, 2 mile walk, most. Don't go right into a 5 mile hike. Build your way up over weeks to a month's time to build up the integrity and the strength and the resources of the muscles and ligaments and tendons to prevent injury. Plain and simple. Prevent that fatigue from setting in and creating bigger problems. Mainly because if you do that too much, maybe once or twice you get away with it, or maybe a few times you get away with it, but eventually you keep those patterns up, it will fail on you in a big way. And then you're going to need some help, and you would have potentially created a more permanent injury condition and changed the pattern and the way in which your body moves due to an injury. All right, hope this helps. Help you understand why it's important for rest, why it's important to build yourself up slowly, deconditioned state, and why things like boot camps and CrossFits and things like this can be too much for people at some point in time. So it's important to get into a space where you are appropriately coached and ramped up. That's about it. That's long enough for me. You take care.